Uh-huh. I know what you're thinking. Is this the booth, drafting the circuits, three-way theater, or the Kevin Jackson show? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kinda lost track myself here on whobazoo.com. So, do you feel lucky, punk?
Oscar Mike Radio. Come in, Oscar Mike Radio.
Sinister One, this is Oscar Mike. I have you, Lima Charlie, over.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land or sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marines.
Hello, hello, hello. Today is September 15th, 2016. This is Travis with Oscar Mike Radio, and I am broadcasting from Brockton, Massachusetts, the city of champions. And this is Oscar Mike Radio. I'm going to start off with the question of the week. And this is my question to you all. How do you feel about not standing for the national anthem? Because the story is not going away, the attention's not going away, and the opinions are not going away. And I just am curious, ask yourself, how do you really feel? You have the right to protest in this country. You have the right to freedom of expression. You do. And I'm a big believer in it. And I have no problem with people exercising that right. Now, I don't like people not standing for the national anthem. It really bothers me. I don't care who you are. Politician, tradesman, executive, sports person, athlete, whatever. You know, we have the greatest country in history. It's the least you can do. But however, if you choose that you don't want to do that, you know, that's up to you. So I really want to know how you feel about that, because for me, I don't like it. I don't have a problem with protest, and that's how you choose to protest. You're not hurting anybody. You're not damaging private property or public property. And you're not impairing someone else's ability to earn a living for their family. So if that's what you really want to do, well then, okay. But I want to know how you really feel about it, because opinions vary across all kinds of demographics. So think about that. If you want to, opine about that, you can post something on the Oscar Mike Radio Facebook page, Twitter. Let me know. And that is my question of the week to you. This week I want to talk about 9/11. And not so much what happened to me on that terrible day, where I was, what I was doing. I was working in downtown Boston during that day. But really what happened to me in the weeks, months after 9/11, what's happened to our country, and how I feel about it. The word this week is about 9/11, and not so much what happened to me on that terrible day. I was nowhere near New York, but I didn't want to get into how I felt right then and there when the planes hit the building, where I was, what I was doing, because after the initial shock, what was really impressed upon me, or what really stuck with me, was what happened more or less after 9/11, in the days and weeks and months to come. And certain feelings and emotions and things that I dealt with as an American stuck with me a lot longer after 9/11 than what happened on that day. But just very briefly, on that day, I was working in downtown Boston when my office said we had a business continuity planning event, which is our speak for an event that happened at one of our offices, and we started getting communications from New York that something terrible had happened, and it was just shocking. It really was. And so that day happened. Those Americans died. Those brave first responders and law enforcement officers put their lives at risk to try to save as many as possible. It was a terrible thing. But for me, it really didn't hit. The force of it really didn't hit. The aftershocks didn't hit until after, days after. A while after of what really happened to us. And I had a long time to really go through my feelings and how I felt and what was going on. And this day comes and goes every year since then, and those feelings haven't gone away. I think what's happened to me is that I've been able to deal with them intellectually and understand why I feel the way I do, but they haven't gone away. It is a painful time. I don't remember a time in my lifetime where over 3,000 Americans got killed at one time. That's never happened. So, days after, I kept watching the planes hit the tower over and over and over again. And I would sit there in disbelief. I could not believe it. My brain was telling my heart and my soul what was happening, and those two parts of me could not process it. I mean, this wasn't some military target or an attack from an organized army. It wasn't. Over 3,000 Americans. And yes, we might have our disagreements. We might not like each other at times. We might be from different parts of the country. One likes the Red Sox, one likes the Indians, one likes the San Francisco Giants, on and on and on and on. But those are our countrymen, us. And they were killed by men armed with knowledge and box cutters. They came to our country, got knowledge about how to fly airplanes, figured out our, flights between Boston and New York, assessed our security, and, for lack of a better term, went down to Home Depot and bought box cutters and brought this country to our knees. Brought this country to our knees. I was in a state of denial for a good 2 to 3 weeks after this. I did not want to believe this was actually happening. The images on the TV and the newspaper were bombarded me. How did this happen? I mean, this couldn't have happened here to us in America. And I didn't want to believe it. And I kept trying to go back and look up information about Pearl Harbor and how our country felt when Pearl Harbor was attacked. Because at least when Pearl Harbor was attacked, which was a terrible thing, Americans, and a lot of them got killed that day, but at least it was a military target, fighting men, whereas these people took out civilians. Ironically, not just Americans either. I'd be remiss if I didn't state the fact that there were plenty of other foreigners in this country who lost their lives during 9/11. And so I tried to really understand how I felt. And one of the things that I felt was this impotent anger. I was upset that I couldn't do anything about this. There wasn't an enemy that I could see to fight. I couldn't do anything. Nothing. Damn, what could I do? There was nothing right then and there that I could do. There was no enemy around the corner. There was no, weapon that I could pick up and retaliate back or use to defend my community, my family, my country. There was nothing I could do. And it was a very helpless feeling that left me full of anger that I was powerless. The other thing that I really felt like is paranoia in a way. I really, I'll admit it, I felt paranoid about all this. I mean, if this is what some people with some motivations could do with some box cutters, where else could they strike? Even to this day, especially after some of the attacks in France and Europe that have happened, I get nervous sometimes walking through the train station, and it should be pretty obvious why. I'm in a space with a lot of people, and there's a lot of opportunity to harm those people. Especially, again, after the Boston Marathon Massacre. That could happen again, and I think about it. And it's not that I can't function in large groups of people or go to those types of things and enjoy myself, because I can. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm being honest with you all, is I think about it. Okay, if I'm a terrorist, where would I strike? Is somebody out there looking to, hurt me, hurt my family? And I've never really gotten over that. And I don't know what the right answer is, but that is how I feel. And, I go from that to this sense of extreme loss on many levels. I feel loss from the fact that we had to bury our countrymen. I feel loss from all the military service members' lives who have been lost as a result of this. I feel loss that our country is not really innocent anymore. That we really don't have and cannot have, more importantly, the same viewpoint on the world that we used to have. We have to come to this understanding, and it seems odd to me, but because people sometimes don't get it or remember that there are people out there that want to kill us, that want to wipe us off the face of the earth, not because we're bad people, but because we're Americans, we have freedom, and we enjoy the kind of life that we have. And for many reasons that I won't get into here, people hate us for that. People hate our influence in the world, our contributions to culture, and instead of trying to understand that or enjoy that even, they've chosen to work to try to kill us. And that's a very sobering thought when you think of how far people are willing to go to try to impose their will on us. I feel loss in the fact that things like the Patriot Act and the NSA and other things, in my view, have eroded our freedoms. There is no other time in our country where every activity we are doing is being watched and scrutinized. If anything that you learn from WikiLeaks and Eric Snowden is our government is looking at everything we are doing. Not just the foreigners coming in here. No, not just the foreigners. They're looking at every American. Without a warrant, without reason, they're monitoring everything we're doing. Surveillance, electronic, physical, whatever, they can do it. I think they're still doing it, and they're going to keep doing it as long as they can get away with it. And when you understand what that truly means, and understand in the course of human history what happens when people are being watched and surveilled and can be arrested without due process, is an extreme loss for this nation and what we believe in. And like I said, our innocence is lost as a people. We can no longer really go out into the world and think that, everything's hunky-dory, that people like Americans. Hey, I'm an American. This is a great place to be. You come on in, and everybody's friendly, and there's room for everybody. And no, I mean, I want to. I want to feel like the doors are open. Give us your poor, weak, and tired. But in my reality, I want to be careful. I want to be cautious. I want to understand why we need to let people in. Especially, again, when we have so many people here in our country who need our help. Why do we have to put others first over our own? And I didn't feel this way until 9/11. I did not feel this way. And so, adding all that up, I feel very, I wouldn't say depressed, but I'm not very optimistic sometimes. But then I'm like, you know what, forget that. Of course I'm optimistic. Why am I optimistic? Because in 9/11 and the weeks after and the years after, there are people who still came together and worked to help each other out. And not just in New York City, but all across our nation, Americans band together. We forgot our differences, we forgot our squabbles and the problems we've had with each other. We band together and we said, you know what? We're going to put all that aside and we are going to help each other. We are going to... People came together. And I can't say that enough, that people came together during that time. And if people can come together during that time, they can do it again. the challenge is remembering that we had to come together. We had to face these obstacles. We had to be better about who we were. And my wish and desire is that we could really do that every day. But I'm optimistic that when it really mattered and there were really problems, that Americans came together, which is, the surprising thing based on how divided we are now. And yes, I'm optimistic. And yes, I think that there's a lot of good out there, but I, can't ignore the fact that in some respects we are more divided than we ever have been. I would not think that there would ever be a time where NFL players would choose to not stand for the national anthem on September 11th. I'm incredulous. I cannot believe that. I could not believe what I was seeing, but it happened. The divide, the feelings, the gap, the gulf, the chasm, if you will, is so great that even though this horrible thing happened so many years ago, you still feel the need to protest about America's problems on that day. And again, I'm not against protest. I'm not against peaceful protest. I'm not against civil disobedience when it's called for. But I really think in honor of the Americans that lost their lives on that day, and the first responders and law enforcement officers who put their lives at risk and lost their lives, and the ones who didn't have to deal with that, and our military who lost lives as a result of us, trying to, defend our country because of 9/11. I think the least you can do is put all that aside for one day and stand as an American. Yes, it's your right to protest. You had the freedom to do so, but I really, really, really wish that we could have all come together last Sunday as Americans. So there is a divide in this country. It can no longer be ignored. It can no longer be explained away. It can no longer be, poo-pooed as, someone just has, butthurt feelings. No, people have a divide. There's a reason why. There's a reason for it. And I think we really need to get to the bottom of it. We really do. Because if the next 9/11 happens, which I'm praying, hoping that doesn't happen, we need to be able to come together again as fellow Americans. We really do. So, again, yes, I could have gone through and told you detail by detail what I was doing on that day, but I felt, I'm still feeling these feelings, 15 years later. I don't think they're ever going to truly go away, and part of me hopes that I never truly forget how I feel, that it doesn't become a distant memory that, I can just put away and everything's good. I really do hope that I can remember that so I understand and I can communicate it to other people as to what is going on. So that is the word for the week. That is what I want to focus this show on, which was 9/11. And my heart goes out to every family, American or foreign, who's experienced loss as a result of 9/11. And I hope that we as a country can remember what happened on that day and remember that we all came together as a result of 9/11, and we can find that again. And that's my word for Oscar Mike Radio. I will be on next week, and I hope that you got something out of this. Thank you.
Oscar Mike Radio, over and out.
Da, da, da.
Oscar Mike Radio, do you copy?
Sinister 1 actual, I have you 5 by 5.
Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night on shore, drink to the foam, until we meet once more. Here's wishing you a happy voyage home.
Oscar Mike Radio is en route.
Copy that, Sinister 1. Coming at you from the City of Champions, Brockton, Massachusetts.
We're always ready for the call, we place our trust in thee. Through surf and storm and howling gale, high shall our purpose be. Semperatus is our guide, our pledge, our motto, too so true. We're always ready, do or die. I Coast Guard, we fight for you. First to fight for the line and to build the nation's line, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off your cadence loud and strong, for where'er we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Come in, Oscar Mike Radio.
Oscar Mike Radio, veteran in action. On the move, on mission, always.